Hi everybody, Jane here, and today I am doing my December wrap up. It's a little bit late, and um, if you follow me, you'll notice that I didn't do a January TBR. And that is partially because this wrap up is so late, and it's also partially just because I record at the library. And so over the holidays, I wasn't able to record because the library was closed from basically Christmas to New Year's. But I didn't want to record my wrap up that early because I still figured I'd read a couple books, and I sure did. So this is it. This is late. I'm sorry. I still hope you enjoy the wrap up, and I am excited about all the books I'm going to be reading in January, and even if I don't get to talk about it this time. So let's just dive right in to all the books. And there are quite a few that I read, or at least attempted to read, in December. We're going to start with my DNFs. I have two. The first one is Sheila Roberts' 3 Christmas Wishes. And I'm actually kind of bummed that this wasn't something I could get more into. So this book is about 3 girls, Riley, Jo, and Noelle. And Riley has just gotten broken up with her boyfriend, and her sister Jo is pregnant, and Jo's having marital problems because her husband's in the Navy, and she doesn't want him to be, basically, now that they've got a family. And Noelle is trying to save her apartment from being bought by somebody other than her. She really wants to buy her apartment, but she can't afford it. So that's the basis of the 3 characters. And they each have kind of interesting stories, but it just wasn't quite working for me. The character I was most interested in and could most relate to was Jo. And I was about 125 pages in, and she really hadn't had a lot of on stage time. I really would have liked to know more about her husband, and I am pretty sure we hadn't even had a conversation with them throughout the course of the book as far as I was, but she wants to divorce him because he's never around. And I was a military wife, and I know how hard it is to have a husband who is very devoted to being a soldier, and it's part of the reason I'm divorced too. So I was really invested in her story, but there really wasn't much of it. Riley, I felt like her story kind of started too early. So she's still engaged to her boyfriend at the beginning of the story. And it's only a couple weeks at most after their breakup that she meets this new guy. And that was just kind of too fast for me. The other thing that didn't work for me in this was just that I don't want to say it tried too hard to be funny, but it kind of did. All this situational stuff was happening, and the man Riley meets is a police officer, and she keeps running into him under really crazy circumstances. So it was just a little too much. Noelle, she really wants to save her house, and her love interest ends up being the person that's buying the house, but she's not real bright either. She tries to turn him off from the house by getting some rats and releasing them, except that she doesn't put the cage away, and so it's clearly oh, your rats are out of their cage, not, oh my gosh, the apartment has rats, I probably shouldn't buy it. So I got 125 pages in and just realized this wasn't for me. It could definitely be for other people. It's maybe a little too hallmarky for what I was in the mood for. Yeah, just not for me. The next one that I DNF'd was Christmas, a Biography. This goes through a lot of history of Christmas, and it just was very dense for me, and I got bored. It's not even a very long book, and I probably got 100 pages in, and I couldn't care. I was trying, and I like Christmas, and I like to know about Christmas traditions, but I just wasn't interested. So yeah, this is another one I DNF'd. All right, so I have 2 books that I finished, but I'm not rating. And the first book is a kid's book. It is Pakistan, the Culture. And I actually read it while I was throwing up with the flu. And I read it because I have a friend in Pakistan who I met on Facebook, and we've been becoming friends. But her culture is very curious to me, and so I'm trying to learn more about her culture. And so I did get this children's book from the library to try to give me a brief overview of her culture. I'm not really sure it helped me understand much more about Pakistan. I don't really have an opinion about it. It was just a nonfiction basic book about Pakistan. It was okay. It wasn't something I would feel comfortable recommending and be like, yes, if you want to learn about Pakistan, this is it. It's not, but it was helpful. I learned some stuff. It wasn't anything particularly special, but it wasn't bad. The next one that I'm choosing not to rate, and the reason I'm choosing not to rate this is because I know the author personally. We're connected on social media, so I didn't feel like I could give her book a reasonable star rating and, make sure I was being honest with you and that my feelings towards the author weren't swaying me. So I'm choosing not to rate this. I will say I really did enjoy it though. This is 2 different short stories, and the first short story is about a couple who was married 5 years ago, and their marriage was a marriage of convenience, and it's just not where it should be. So then a dog comes into their life and changes everything. I liked it, but I felt like there could have been more to it. I felt like it would have made a really nice novel, and that maybe it wasn't as good of a short story as it would have been a novel. The second book in this, though, I really, really, truly enjoyed, and it was about a family. There is a dad, a grandpa, and a daughter. And the daughter wants this flute for Christmas. And the grandpa's having health issues, and they just can't afford this flute. And then some Christmas miracles happen, and it's a great story. It's a very Christmassy, just very Christmas story. It was so good. And everything I like in the story, in a Christmas story with a little bit of Christmas magic. So I really did enjoy this book. I really enjoyed the second story a little more than the first. Do I recommend it? If you can get it on Kindle for 99 cents, absolutely 100%. It is quite small, which is one thing that, for some people may be a deterrent. I enjoyed it. It was a nice little Christmas read. All right, so now to get on to my 3-star books. I had 3 stars and 5 stars, nothing in between. So it was just kind of one of those months. All right, for my first 3-star, I read Murder on Union Square. This is book 21 in the Gaslight Mystery Series by Victoria Thompson. I'm doing a full review of everything that I'm giving actual star ratings to, so I'm not going to go too into detail, but basically Frank and Sarah, who are the people who've been investigating cases and forming a relationship through this series, are trying to adopt a little girl, and there are some legal issues with the adoption involving her legal but not biological father. They are trying to work this out. The father is found dead, and Frank is basically accused of the murder, so they are trying to clear Frank's name. This book I said was going to change whether or not I finished the series, but I'm going to give it at least one more try because the author left a note that basically a reader had pointed out to her that she had kind of a plot hole. And I feel like this book was to make up for that plot hole, and it did. It felt rushed. There was a lot of repetition of just everybody running around going, here are the clues we have. Whereas it wasn't unfolding as well as some of the other ones. The other thing that I didn't like about it is there was a lot of focus on not Frank and Sarah's relationship, but a younger couple's relationship who's in the story, and I'm not as invested in their relationship. I don't like them as well. So I will be continuing to read the series, at least the next book. I highly recommend the series. I love it, but the last couple books haven't really been as good for me, and I feel like this series is just one that maybe has gone on a little bit too long. I mean, 21 books. It's been a great journey, but I feel like most of the arcs that I cared about are wrapped up. So it was good. It wasn't great. It's not a great mystery, but the series as a whole, highly recommend. This one, just okay, but I'm going to read one more since this was kind of it seems like a filler, oops, I had to fix plot holes thing. The next book I read was A Different Kind of Christmas by Alex Haley. And this is also 3 out of 5 for me. And it's a fairly short book. Basically what happens is this guy from the South, who is the son of a plantation owner, he goes and meets these Quaker boys who, as their friendship develops, take him to this Underground Railroad rally. And at this Underground Railroad rally, he decides that he doesn't believe in slavery. So he asks to join the Underground Railroad, and they have an escape plan for when he is home at Christmas. And they basically say, okay, we want you when you're home at Christmas to betray all of the people that you've been close to growing up and, do this, help us with these slaves. So here are the issues I had with it. Overall, it was a good book. I do recommend it. It's written in very classic language, which I didn't like, and it's not really old. It's like 1988, but you would think it was written a long time ago. I didn't feel like he had sufficient incentive to join the Underground Railroad, but I did like as he's working to plan the escape. That was all really good. The ending didn't really work for me. It kind of just fell flat. Like it ended kind of abruptly and I was disappointed. I didn't feel like I really got the point. So this was good. I enjoyed it, but it could have been better. All right, the next one is Just What Kind of Mother Are You by Paula Daly. So this is a thriller, and I don't read a ton of thrillers. This is also a 3 out of 5 star. I don't read a ton of thrillers. I do like thrillers, but this one did not work for me very well. It had me in the beginning, and I was pretty on board with it until the end. And it would have been a 4 out of 5, except the end dragged it down to a 3 out of 5. So basically, your main character is, I believe her name's Lisa, and she is a busy working mother and just gets total scatterbrained, and they're supposed to have a slumber party. Her daughter's supposed to have like a friend over for a slumber party because they have a homework project to do. Well, her daughter has a stomach bug, and she never calls the mother of the other child to cancel. And the next day at school, they find out that child is missing, and her mother just assumed that she'd come home and done the slumber party, and so now she's been missing for, roughly not quite 24 hours, but getting there. And there have been abductions of other girls by a pedophile in the area, so there's some assumption that she was taken by the same person. Without giving too much away, this book follows 3 different perspectives: the pedophile, the harried mother, I think her name's Lisa, and then the police investigating it, who I believe her name is Joanne. The pedophile's perspective is very disturbing, and I didn't care for it. And I didn't feel it was really necessary to be in the book for a lot of reasons. I loved Lisa and her perspective, and I pretty much related to her. There was some stuff that didn't really work for me, like she made some really bad decisions, and I was kind of like, I don't know why you did that, and it seemed like it was more of a to deal with the plot than it was like that makes sense as a character. But overall, I liked her perspective the best. The police lady, I think her name is Joanne, I didn't really... I liked her, but this this sounds really dumb as a complaint, but she kept talking about her boobs. Like, basically, she wants breast surgery to get a reduction, and that's fine, but it just kind of took over her part of the story a little bit. This book had like kind of a weirdly, unnecessarily sexual tone, which I didn't care for. And like I said, I was pretty invested and I really liked how things were until the end and the big reveal, and then I was furious enough that I wanted to throw the book. So I did not like the way it ended. It did not at all work for me, and like, there's so many things that they could have done that would have worked for me, but the way they ended it, I was really, really mad. Okay, so now on to my 5-star reads of the month. This one is no surprise at all to me, and that is Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. Now, I'm a huge fan of Jordan Peterson, and I know he's a controversial writer, but I think that this book is one that honestly most people should read. Jordan Peterson, I want to say he's a clinical psychologist, or was at one point. He also teaches in Toronto. And he has a lot of opinions and thoughts about mental health that are kind of ones that we don't see very often. And I don't know if he addresses this so much in this book. I've watched like a ton of his YouTube videos, but like one of the things he talks about a lot is sometimes depression is not necessarily chemical related as much as that things aren't right in our life, like that our Maslow's hierarchy of needs basically aren't being met. We're not working at a job that fulfills us. We don't have good family relationships. You know, things in our life are off balance. And that kind of needs a different kind of addressing than clinical depression, which is like the chemical imbalances. So I have anxiety and depression, especially seasonally. So that is kind of why I started following him. And his 12 Rules for Life kind of goes over some of the things that you can do to be healthier and have a better life. I am going to do a full review on this, but a couple things that I really love and that I think are good are, 1, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to anybody else. 2, if you see a cat, pet it. And what he means by that is basically sometimes when things are really rough, you have to just take joy in the small things. And another one that really stuck out to me was treat yourself like somebody you're responsible for taking care of. And especially as a busy mom who is totally always like worried about my kids' welfare and not always myself, that's what I need to hear. One thing I will say that is kind of a negative is that it can be really hard to follow. Like, Jordan just kind of goes off everywhere or and it's great and I love it, but it's definitely not for everybody. I noticed that while I was listening to this book, because I was listening to it on a road trip, and there was one point that I was like, I don't even know what topic we're on. Like, I'm cool, I'm interested in what you're saying, I'll listen to this story, but I have no idea which of your rules for life you're relating this to, because we've just gotten not off topic, and he did eventually drag it back, but he can get a little meandering with his stories. But definite 5 for me. I love Jordan Peterson. If you don't really want to check out the book or are worried, you know, it may not be for you since it is nonfiction, check out his podcast. He's got a YouTube channel. I love him. He's amazing. And despite his politics, which I'm not always 100% on board with, I think he's got a lot of important stuff to say. My last 5-star book and 5-star read for the month, and this one surprised the crap out of me because I did not really love book 1 in the series, the sequel. I didn't love the first book. I really liked the second, and that is Wondersmith by Jessica Townsend. And there's not a good way to explain the plot without giving away spoilers, so I'm not really going to. I'm just going to say it's really good. It follows Morrigan on her continued adventures after the trials from the first book. And a lot of the things that I didn't like about the first book, which mostly was I found the world building very difficult and confusing to follow, was a lot less of an issue in this book. A lot of things were better explained, or things that maybe they were explained in the first book but I missed, I'm not sure. But I was so confused in the first book, and this book I think I read in like 2 or 3 days. I got in there, and it's fairly big. I got in there, I was excited, it made sense, and the world building, I felt like I was better at understanding what was going on. Now, there is a little section near the end where I still had some of the struggles with the world building, as far as there's some stuff that I feel like the author almost just is like, hey, we're going to talk about this, but not really, and we'll explain later. And I just hate that. I'm like, wait a second, don't do that to me. I need to know like what you're talking about or what that means. And some of the world building is just a little hard to follow in this series in general. But this was way better and a way better experience, and I was really invested. Love the characters, and this one's plot was really, really good. So, I do recommend the series. If you don't love Nevermore, hang on and read this one because it is so much better. And that is the books that I read this month, in the month of December. So it was a pretty big month, pretty busy. I'm happy with the books I read, and I look forward to January and hope it is as good as December, because despite my 3 stars, I had some really good reads in there. Alright guys, my social media is down below, as is the like and subscribe button. Thanks guys, see you later, bye.